There is a substance you consume more than 300 times each day. It doesn't come in pill form, syringes, or glass bottles. Instead, it takes the shape of a luminous display. What's most troubling is that you hardly recognize your own dependency because this stimulus so seamlessly disguises itself as productivity, amusement, and social bonding. Have you ever experienced the sensation of completing an entire day and recalling almost nothing of what you accomplished? Or have you reached for your phone to send a brief reply and before realizing it, lost 40 minutes endlessly scrolling? This phenomenon has a name, and the true cause resides in the neurobiology of your reward circuitry, extending well beyond a mere deficiency in willpower to cease using social platforms. In contrast to what conventional wisdom suggests, dopamine functions as the brain's mechanism for anticipating rewards. The key insight here is that it activates much more powerfully in expectation of something positive than it does at the precise instant that positive thing actually occurs. This is exactly why glancing at alerts proves more addictive than reading the message itself. The chase consistently outshines the prize. The difficulty arises when this mechanism gets flooded by rapid, irregular, and effortless inputs. It begins to protect itself. Your brain simply decreases the quantity of receptors that bind to dopamine. This phenomenon is known as desensitization. In practical terms, the modest pleasures of existence, a heartfelt conversation, getting lost in a book, or observing a sunset, cease to produce any emotional reaction. It's not that you miss something particular. You miss the capacity to feel. Today, I will share the account of Daniel Ashworth, an individual who toiled amidst glowing displays, existed surrounded by constant input, and yet experienced a deepening hollowness. And I will demonstrate how 5 principles from a centuries-old Japanese tradition, Kano, Danshari, Mono-ware, Shokunin, and Fugoku, explain in tangible terms what contemporary neuroscience required centuries to validate in laboratories concerning focus and overindulgence. Before we start, a crucial note. This content is not about one of those 24-hour digital detox trials. A single day without dopamine does not recalibrate your neural pathways. That is merely advertising presented as scientific fact. The journey you are about to witness is quieter, more profound, and fosters lasting transformation. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment below. How frequently do you suspect you unlock your phone without conscious awareness? This content originated precisely from the many messages I receive from individuals wary of this mental fatigue that appears to lack any clear origin. If this resonates with you, stay with me, because you're going to discover the reasons behind it and strategies to move past it. Return to the narrative. The moment silence became unbearable. Daniel Ashworth, age 29, earned his living as a video editor. He operated alone from his home, encircled by 3 screens, premium headphones, and a meticulously arranged workspace. He possessed genuine skill in his profession, yet an invisible obstruction existed that no portfolio revealed. Daniel could no longer maintain concentration on a single activity for 10 straight minutes. He would trim a segment, and while awaiting the file to render, he would open social media. He would spend 30 seconds there and then return to editing. He would advance a bit further and open another browser tab. He would inspect messages that hadn't even arrived yet. Immediately after, he would check his banking application just to confirm a balance he already knew from memory. On a Tuesday, a critical meeting was scheduled. Marina, a producer with a major documentary company, was considering him for a large-scale assignment. Over Zoom, she posed a direct inquiry regarding his portfolio. An uncomfortable quiet followed. Daniel had automatically minimized the conversation seconds earlier to glance at a notification. When he switched back to the screen, he had missed the thread of the discussion. "I apologize, would you mind repeating that?" he said, attempting to conceal his unease. Marina repeated herself, remaining courteous, but Daniel caught her expression. That particular look from someone who perceives when the other individual is simply not mentally present. The discussion concluded with the customary, "We'll evaluate and inform you," the phrase every freelancer recognizes as a polite refusal. That night, Daniel attempted to view a film he had been anticipating for days. 20 minutes in, he already held his phone in his grasp. The movie paused, and he retained no memory of the preceding scene. Frustrated, he locked his device and opened his screen time statistics. 11 hours and 40 minutes of usage, 312 unlocks on that single day. He gazed at that figure for an extended period. The data wasn't shocking, yet it assigned a tangible, quantifiable weight to that sensation of emptiness he carried within. If you recognize yourself in Daniel's daily pattern, the initial step today is straightforward. Open your phone settings and confront your screen time report. Don't do this to criticize yourself or to erase your applications immediately. Do it to acknowledge reality. After all, it is impossible to change what we decline to quantify. The Bear Workshop. Marina responded to Daniel's email shortly afterward, possibly on a mutual acquaintance's suggestion, or to extend a second opportunity after the unfortunate meeting. The assignment was a documentary titled Clay and Silence, focusing on a traditional potter named Sozuke Fujimori, residing in the mountains of Nagano. The unedited footage consisted of 72 hours of material. Daniel opened the initial file, anticipating profound tedium, but what appeared on his display was a workshop stripped of all superfluity. Unvarnished wooden walls entirely devoid of decoration, a workbench, a potter's wheel, a kiln, no paintings or extraneous items. Gentle natural light filtered softly through a solitary window. Su Fujimori appeared to be around 70, with hands calloused by years of craftsmanship. At one point in the recording, the director inquired, "Why is your workshop so empty?" Fujimori-san, the master, without halting his work with the clay, answered simply, "Every object present in a space is a query your mind must address. What is this? What purpose does it serve? Do I need to examine it? A crowded room is a room of endless questions. I prefer to labor in a place that poses only a single question to me." Daniel paused the video and surveyed his environment. His own desk held 3 active monitors, a gaming controller, accumulated old notes, and a phone vibrating with each passing minute. He counted 7 sources of visual competition, distracting from the edit he needed to complete. That very evening, Daniel tidied his desk. He placed the controller in a drawer, discarded the old papers, and retained only his work monitor, his keyboard, and a glass of water. He edited for 40 uninterrupted minutes without touching his device. This modification didn't demand extraordinary exertion. It occurred because for the first time in a considerable period, there were no inputs competing for his focus. Daniel was unaware, but he was implementing the principle called Kano, intentional simplicity. The actual objective here is to diminish the visual cues that vie for your dopamine each second. Every redundant object offers a silent promise of reward to the brain. A neat environment returns authority over your attention to you. The subsequent week, Daniel produced twice the expected amount of work, earning direct recognition from the producer. The key had been simply releasing the surplus from his workspace. Examine your own area right now. Identify how many objects rest on your desk purely from routine, serving no genuine function for your current activity. Select a single location, perhaps just your desk, and clear it, leaving only what is strictly essential for your primary task. The aim is not to embrace a minimalist aesthetic, but to grant your concentration a respite. The setback. 3 weeks into the project, an urgent situation arose. Marina required a 15-minute preview within 48 hours to present to backers. Daniel felt overwhelmed by that quiet anxiety that immobilizes instead of motivating. Under strain, his previous patterns resurfaced. He reopened every tab he had previously closed, reinstalled social media applications for a quick peek, and fell back into the rhythm of working for 5 minutes, then spending 10 on his device. Late in the night, exhausted, he recognized he had squandered 2 hours toggling between screens without generating anything worthwhile. The deadline was approaching, and the work remained unfinished. Defeated by the frustration of disappointing himself, he sent a message to Marina informing her he would be a few hours late. Her response was understanding. "No problem. Let me know if you require more time." And since you're editing Fujimoran's footage, watch the segment where he discusses his tools again. I believe it relates significantly to what you're experiencing right now. Daniel located the specified clip. It showed the ceramicist displaying his workbench, containing only 7 implements, all showing signs of age. "I possessed more than 40 tools when I was younger," Fujimori stated in the recording. "Each one promised to simplify my craft. It required 20 years to recognize that most of them merely existed so I wouldn't have to rely on my own abilities. I discarded 33 of them in a single day. It was challenging, but the quality of my work improved instantly." When questioned about his method for deciding what to keep, the master responded, "I ask each item, do you support my work or do you support my uncertainty? If it serves uncertainty, it must be removed." This practice is danchari, rejecting the extraneous, eliminating what no longer benefits you, and releasing attachment. The idea extends beyond physical arrangement. It concerns breaking the compulsion to accumulate diversions, just to escape the unease of being alone with your own thoughts. Daniel examined his phone's display and the vast number of installed applications. He recognized how many existed solely as a quick escape from any instant of boredom. He experienced an unavoidable discomfort. That very night, he removed more than half of them. He did this because he finally understood that each of those symbols fed his insecurity, not his efficiency. The final cut was submitted 4 hours ahead of the deadline. Recognize that losing control during stressful periods is part of the process and does not negate your earlier advancements, but utilize the setback to your benefit. Choose 3 applications you open purely from habit and delete them from your smartphone. You can reinstall them later if you truly require them, but interrupt the automatic cycle of accessing them today. The fractured vessel. As the project advanced, Marina suggested that Daniel travel to Nagano to capture supplementary footage and meet the ceramicist personally. For the first time in years, he spent days disconnected as the mountain village possessed almost no mobile reception. On the second day of his visit, Fujimori retrieved a ceramic bowl displaying a prominent crack along its side from a high shelf. Rather than concealing it, he positioned it centrally on the table as the room's focal point. Noticing Daniel's interest, the master explained, "This bowl fractured 12 years ago. I could have concealed the flaw or simply disposed of the piece. I chose to keep the mark visible, because the crack is the documentation of this piece's existence through time. This object carries a narrative that a flawless one never could. We refer to this as mono-air, the awareness of the transience of things, the beauty found in the reality that nothing endures forever." That explanation prompted Daniel to reflect on the contemporary habit of documenting every single instant through photos and recordings, continuously seeking the ideal image to share instead of genuinely living the experience. He recognized how many beautiful moments he had witnessed only through the lens of his smartphone, concerned with capturing the image rather than experiencing the instant. As if reading Daniel's mind, Fujimori added, "Recording itself is not an error. The issue emerges when we begin viewing the present moment merely as material for the next post, forgetting to experience it as it is, knowing this moment will never recur." That afternoon, the two sat in the garden behind the workshop with no phones or cameras nearby. They sat in stillness for extended minutes, observing only the vapor rising from their teacups. Initially, Daniel experienced an uncomfortable physical agitation, an almost instinctive compulsion to reach into his pocket for his device. It was the physical manifestation of stimulus withdrawal. But he remained, and gradually, the whisper of the wind among the trees and the warmth of the cup occupied his awareness in a manner screens used to commandeer. For the first time in a long while, Daniel experienced the fulfillment of doing absolutely nothing. Dopamine plays its role in the chase, not the acquisition. When you teach your brain to value the current moment, rather than pursuing the next digital reward, you engage a distinct neural pathway, a calmer, more enduring, and genuinely fulfilling one. Select one daily activity, coffee time, your shower, or your commute home, and perform it with absolutely no technology nearby. No audio, no podcasts, no photographs. Just experience the moment. The initial discomfort is entirely expected. View this sensation as confirmation that the practice is effective. 6 hours in stillness. On the fourth day of the journey, Daniel was able to observe the ceramicist working on a single piece from start to conclusion. Fujimori sat at the wheel early in the morning. He didn't glance at the clock, took no pauses, and didn't speak for over 6 consecutive hours. His hands shaped the clay with movements that were both minute and remarkably exact. When he finished, he stretched his body with a serene expression, akin to someone waking, restored from profound rest. Daniel felt respect intertwined with a deep longing to experience that mental state. He coveted that ability to maintain concentration fixed on one objective for so many hours, liberated from the compulsion to check or refresh displays. How do you sustain that focus with zero interruptions for such a long time? Daniel asked. There is no secret, Fujimori replied. I simply have no other stimuli competing for my focus while I am here. This is Shokunin, the artisan's complete commitment to their craft to the degree where the individual and the work become one. The master looked at his clay, stained hands, and added, You edit videos, don't you? How often do you dedicate hours to being absorbed in a cut without observing anything else around you? Daniel was at a loss for words. In his recent years of work, the honest answer was never. Upon returning home, he decided to conduct an experiment. He reserved a morning block, left his powered-off phone in another room, and concentrated entirely on editing the final scene of the documentary. The first hour required effort. The desire to reach for his device arose periodically in an almost reflexive manner, but he persisted. Gradually, his sense of time altered. The clock became irrelevant, and Daniel slipped into a state of deep absorption he hadn't experienced since his younger years. When he finally paused to check the time, 4 hours had passed. The edit was complete with a level of technical excellence, far beyond anything he had previously delivered. The state of profound concentration generates a consistent and prolonged release of dopamine linked to the gratification of personal accomplishment. It is impossible to remove the brain's drive for satisfaction. The strategy is to direct that search toward activities that demand commitment and produce genuine long-term rewards. Once you finish this video, identify a task today that necessitates concentration. Reserve a 90-minute period, place your phone in another room, and commit yourself exclusively to that task. Avoid opening unrelated tabs or checking messages. The first 20 minutes will prove the most difficult, but the mental clarity that follows is entirely worth the exertion. The draw of the final day. The documentary was in its last delivery phase. On the evening before the deadline, drained after reviewing the material, Daniel received an offer from a former client for a quick job with immediate compensation. Previously, he would have accepted the project instantly, which would have meant reverting to the old pattern of working with numerous tabs open and a completely fragmented attention. The impulse to accept and keep every channel of stimulation active it once attempted to reassert itself, the exact behavior that had disrupted his routine months earlier. Daniel looked at the completed project on his screen. He recalled Fujimori's mountain workshop, the hours of concentrated quiet, and the beauty of the flawed bowl. He realized he now possessed the understanding necessary to recognize that escapist tendency. He replied to the client, declining the immediate assignment and proposing a future date instead. Then he closed his screens and rested. Fujimori had spoken about this moment on their final afternoon in Nagano. Avoiding a distraction once is simple. The real test lies in sustaining that choice day after day when the novelty fades. No one is observing, and yielding to the effortless stimulus appears the easiest route. This mature stance of acknowledging the attraction of quick stimulation and actively choosing focus is what the ancients termed fugaku, the mental steadiness to remain on your path without wandering. The next time you feel the impulse to open a tab or check your phone during an important task, halt your action for 3 seconds. Question yourself, does this action contribute to what I am constructing right now? Or does it merely function to ease temporary monotony? This brief conscious pause is a direct application of Fugoku, what Eastern masters conveyed through quiet practice. Contemporary science now confirms with evidence. Dopamine receptor downregulation. Research on neural adaptability demonstrates that continuous exposure to varied digital stimuli reduces the density of D2-type dopamine receptors in the brain. This protective response to overstimulation ultimately diminishes our capacity to experience pleasure from simpler, slower daily pursuits. The flow state. Investigations into the flow state, or deep focus, indicate that prolonged commitment to a single task triggers a healthy, steady release of dopamine. This dynamic generates an internal sense of reward much greater than the rapid, fleeting peaks caused by consuming fragmented information. The prefrontal cortex muscle. Neuroscientists emphasize that the prefrontal cortex, the region governing impulse control, functions similarly to a muscle. Each conscious decision for an activity requiring effort strengthens this area, while the automatic pursuit of quick relief weakens it. The encouraging news is that the brain preserves its capacity to adapt throughout life, enabling us to reverse this condition. Daniel experienced the rewards of this transformation months after delivering the documentary. The film Clay in Silence was launched and received an excellent response. Investors noted that the pacing of the editing was distinct, conveying an uncommon serenity and depth in today's market. This visual rhythm on screen was the tangible expression of the internal shift the editor had undergone himself. The documentary was chosen for international festivals, and Marina extended an offer for him to edit a new series on traditional craftsmen in Japan. Daniel accepted, but stipulated a new condition in his work method. The initial hours of his day would be devoted exclusively to creativity, with all electronic devices entirely disconnected. This professional boundary not only preserved his mental well-being, but also produced the most praised work of his career. What endured? A year after starting this journey, Daniel inhabits a new reality. His desk now displays only what is essential. The applications on his phone have been considerably reduced, and moments of deep concentration have become woven into his daily schedule. His average screen usage dropped to roughly 3 hours daily, most of it strictly related to work. Fujimori passed away at age 73 in his mountain workshop in Nagano. Marina sent the news accompanied by a request from the ceramicist's family. They wanted Daniel to assemble a tribute using unreleased archival footage. During the process, he discovered an old discarded recording in which Fujimori looked at the camera and said, "Many assume I chose silence seeking peace. In reality, I spent my life pursuing every novelty until I realized the years had passed, and I retained clear memories of almost nothing. That was when I resolved to transform." It is never too late to choose to inscribe your own history in your memory. Daniel preserved that clip as the concluding message of the tribute. Daniel didn't revolutionize his life overnight. He began by clearing his desk. Then he removed the applications that fostered automatic diversions. He learned to value quiet, trained his concentration on extended tasks, and learned to refuse easy temptations. None of these steps are remarkable individually, but together they reinstated his capacity to discover satisfaction in the modest aspects of existence, a reflex that an excess of technology had obscured through the years. If this journey resonated with you, you might believe your professional life demands constant connection and that there is no room for adjustment. But the choice exists. The habit of continuous stimulation has only made this search so automatic that we overlook our ability to decide differently. Here is the practical challenge for the next 14 days. Step 1. Review your screen time report today. Merely observe the figure without judgment. Step 2. Clear your workspace, keeping only what is necessary for the current task. This is Canso. Step 3. Remove 3 applications that you access purely on autopilot. This is Danshari. Step 4. Set aside a moment of your day to experience without displays or recordings. This is Monoair. Step 5. Dedicate a period of focus to an important activity, keeping your phone far away. This is Shakanen. Step 6. When faced with the urge to distract yourself, wait 3 seconds before responding. This is Fugoku. Do not attempt to implement all of them at once. Select just one of these steps and practice it consistently for the next 2 weeks. A year from now, you can continue unlocking your phone hundreds of times, daily without recalling almost anything you observed, or you can look back and remember the exact moment you chose to reclaim authority over your attention and your existence. If this message proved beneficial to you, comment below which of these steps you will begin practicing starting today. And if you wish to explore further this journey of focus and mental clarity, click on the suggested video appearing on the screen right now. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and if possible, click the button. This greatly assists the channel in reaching a broader audience and enables me to continue delivering more content to you. And remember, be present, walk with honor, and follow the path. Until the next video.